what microphone is this? Just this one here. Alright, hi everyone, thanks for coming today. Thanks for being here. I'm going to be talking today a little bit about a topic that's very near and dear to all of us, and that's the topic of food. And I have a little bit of an interesting story, a little bit of a unique story relating to this, and I want to share some of that with you today. And also give you some of the tips that I've learned so that you can learn from some of my mistakes and design your own path to health. So I want to start off by saying also that this presentation is really not about, it's really not even so much about food, it's more about, so much about nutrition or what to eat or what not to eat. It's more about food and its place in our life, in our relationships with other people, in our emotional life and things like that. So I'll share a little bit about my story, and then I'll give you some of the takeaway tips that maybe you can use to add to your own practices. Also, before I get started, I wanted to just gauge the audience, like, how many of you are interested in health or know somebody who is maybe a vegetarian or does like a paleo diet or something like that? So you guys are all familiar with kind of alternative diets and what that means. I'll be explaining some of the different lifestyle practices that I've experimented with, and then I'll also be running through some other tips that you guys can take with you. Okay. So to get started, I want to just run through again my journey with diet, some of the different things that I've learned over the years, over the past 10 years that I've been experimenting with, and then we'll do some other interesting tidbits as well. So the first kind of period in my dietary journey, I like to call it, is when I first got interested in vegetarianism. It was about 10 years ago in 2004. And some of you who know me, know that I've been a vegetarian for a long time and have been familiar with kind of my weird eating practices. But so I first got interested in eating an alternative diet. I have some photos here, just some of the foods I used to make and what I looked like at this time period in my life. So some of you are familiar with with my diet because you've known me for a while. But a lot of people like who I meet will ask me like, well, why do you eat this way, or how did you first get involved in this kind of stuff? And really, my first interest came from kind of like an ethical standpoint. I wasn't necessarily comfortable with how some food products were made, and I wanted to kind of take action on that. So I decided to become a vegetarian when I was about 8 or 9. I don't really remember at this point, but it's kind of just been a journey from there. And my main interest during this period of my life was, again, the ethical component. And I wasn't so much interested in nutrition or cooking and so on, but I got involved in that soon after I first became vegetarian, because you learn to create new options for yourself that are different from what you used to eat. So again, these are some pictures of me. This was a family breakfast project for 7th grade family consumer science. So it's just kind of interesting. And then this over here, I just wanted to include this. Back when I think I was 13, I started a blog called Veg Living, and I did like a little podcast and stuff, and that was kind of like my first foray into getting involved online with this stuff, and I met a lot of great people through that. So that was the first kind of period of my journey. And this kind of got a little bit weirder because it was a little bit of a progression. I started to get more involved in the nutritional side of it, and I started to also become involved in the kind of the spirituality side of eating. And I got into different kinds of diets, raw food diets, fruitarian diets. And essentially what that means is I was eating basically a diet of fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, things like that, basically whole raw produce. And that was kind of the center of my nutritional plan. And this is where you guys see me, if you know me, I eat a lot of fruit. This is kind of where that all came from. So some of the things I used to eat, I used to like making like different kinds of salads, and I would go to like wholesale markets and buy lots of fruit and stuff like that. And I'll be explaining a little bit kind of what this kind of taught me. It seems kind of strange, I would imagine, to a lot of people, like, why would you do that? Why would you even, bother with something like that? But you can see here, I met a lot of great people. I went to a festival in 2011 for fruitarians, and that's the corner, the picture in the corner. And I really learned a lot about, through doing this, I learned a lot about nutrition because you really get down to the elements of it. So I'm going to run through quickly here because we have a short amount of time, but some more pictures of kind of my journey. This was me at a wholesale market. I used to go to the markets in Philadelphia to buy my produce. And this was a little project I did. I put together a recipe book in 2000, I think that was 2011 as well, with all the stuff all the recipes that I made, and I sold that online and sold a couple hundred copies, so that was kind of fun. And just some more pictures. This was a meetup in Hawaii with some of my fruitarian friends. We have a group there. And so just where I am today, I kind of have a mixture. I'm not so much interested anymore in the labeling, and that's what I'm going to be talking about briefly is, what I've learned from this is that you really have to kind of do what works for you, do what works for your health, So I've kind of taken bits and pieces of all these different ideologies that I've experimented with, and I've kind of kept the parts that work and left the parts that don't. So you can see here, I won't go into detail, but my current diet is kind of a mixture of all of these different ideologies that I experimented with. And so, okay, I'm going to skip this one. All right, so some of the things that I've learned that you guys can take away. Like I said, the number one thing is when you're doing something with your health, you want to make sure that the number one focus is always health, because this is really about health. And so doing things like labels and getting really strict with yourself really isn't the best way to get results. So the other thing is your health has to come before any ideology, because at one point in my journey I was kind of experiencing some not exactly the results I was looking for health-wise, and I kind of had to reconsider what I was doing and see if I should really change up my beliefs, and that's what I had to do. And it was really hard for me, because it was kind of almost like a little bit of a religious thing to me. Like, it was very important to me to do what I did, and I had to kind of reconsider that. So that brings me to number 3, which is the ability to grow and change beyond limiting beliefs is really the sign of that you're achieving health. So as far as what I've learned about food in society, people just want to be happy and healthy. They want you to be happy and healthy. And at some points in my journey, I was so strict with what I was doing that I would kind of think that I was all alone and that I didn't have anywhere to turn. And in the end, tradition and society and things that people do really are not as stupid as you think they are. There's a lot to learn from them. And really, in the end, food touches our relations with everybody in our life. And I learned so much from kind of stepping from the norm of eating culture and having this thing that I did. It really taught me a lot about the importance of sharing food with other people. So takeaway tips for you. As far as the nutritional side, don't eat bad food. Really, that's the number one secret to all these diets that people do, is they remove the foods that are the most damaging. Eat real food, so focus on things that are whole, natural products. And also, you have to value yourself above, and do it for health, because in the end, I always say, the health and the self-respect that you gain from doing something like this has to be the foundation and not the reward of doing something that you want to get results out of. So that's what I've learned, and I want to thank everyone for listening. And